Imani Porter didn't hear the shout until the second gunshot cracked through the alley. She froze for half a breath, her pulse thundering as adrenaline surged through her veins. She wasn't supposed to be here. Her shift at Gracie's diner had ended 10 minutes ago, and all she wanted was to get home, shower, collapse, and pretend she wasn't drowning in bills and overdue tuition. But the universe didn't believe in giving her a break. Another shot echoed, dull and distant, followed by hurried footsteps pounding against wet pavement. "Somebody help!" Imani jerked toward the voice. A shadow stumbled out from between two dumpsters, collapsing onto the ground like a puppet with severed strings. She hesitated only a second, fear biting at her heels, before she ran to him. The boy lay on his side, shivering uncontrollably, his breath shallow and uneven. He wasn't bleeding, no bullet wounds, no trauma she could see. But his skin was damp with sweat despite the freezing cold, and his lips trembled as though every muscle in his body was losing strength. "Hey, hey, can you hear me?" she whispered, kneeling beside him. His eyelids fluttered. "Cook, cold. I can't, I can't." Imani touched his forehead, burning hot. His hands? Ice cold. His pulse? Fast. Too fast. She leaned closer, forcing herself to focus. She recognized the signs instantly. Her nursing classes drilled this into her brain. Hypoglycemia. Severe. "Damn it," she muttered, scanning him quickly. His clothes didn't match the neighborhood. Expensive black blazer with a gold emblem, perfectly pressed trousers, leather shoes polished enough to reflect moonlight. He didn't belong anywhere near Ashview. Her gaze caught a silver medical bracelet on his wrist. Type 1, diabetes. Emergency contact, Adrian Marlowe. Oh God. She ripped open her bag, hands shaking as she dug through textbooks, a crushed granola bar, her cheap stethoscope, and finally, her emergency glucose gel. She always carried one. Always. Being broke meant carrying your own safety net everywhere. She squeezed the gel into his mouth, rubbing his cheek to trigger a swallow reflex. "Come on, kid. Stay with me." His breathing steadied. Barely. But it was enough. Imani grabbed her phone and dialed the number on his bracelet. It rang once. A man answered. "Where is my son?" Not, "Hello?" Not, "Who is this?" Just a voice sharp enough to slice steel. Imani swallowed her fear. "He's unconscious but stable for the moment. He had severe hypoglycemia. Look, I'm on Walnut and—" "Stay where you are." The line went dead. She blinked at the phone. No reassurance, no thanks, no anything. The boy's eyes flickered open again, just barely. He looked terrified. "You're okay," she murmured, brushing damp curls from his forehead. "Help is coming." A sleek black SUV turned the corner so fast she flinched. It screeched to a stop, and doors flung open. Two security men jumped out first, scanning the alley with disciplined precision. Between them stepped a man in a charcoal coat, tall, broad-shouldered, radiating a presence that felt heavier than the night air itself. Adrian Marlowe. Imani recognized the name instantly. Philadelphia's quiet billionaire, the kind who stayed off social media but owned half the city. He strode toward them with fierce urgency, not running, but moving like a man who would destroy anything slowing him down. Liam. His voice cracked on the boy's name. So this was Liam Marlowe. The boy whimpered softly. "Dad." Imani stepped back as Adrian knelt, gathering his son with a tenderness that contradicted his dangerous aura. He checked Liam's pulse, inspected the gel residue, and finally looked up at her. "What did you give him?" "Glucose gel. Fast-acting. He needed—" "You saved his life." No hesitation, no doubt. His eyes, cold, intelligent gray, locked on hers with an intensity that made her throat tighten. "What were you doing out here?" he asked. "Going home. I work the night shift at Gracie's diner." "You saw him collapse?" "Sort of." I heard something first. Then I. Why didn't you call an ambulance? Imani bristled. Because he didn't have that kind of time. A beat of silence stretched between them. The security guard stood still, waiting for commands. Adrian stood, lifting Liam into his arms like the boy weighed nothing. His voice dropped lower, quieter but somehow colder. Come with me. What? No, I have to get home and you're coming with me. It wasn't a request. It wasn't even an order. It was inevitability, spoken aloud. Imani's heart hammered. She had two choices: follow this powerful stranger into his black SUV, or stay in a dark alley where someone just fired shots. Neither option felt safe. But then Liam reached weakly toward her, fingers trembling. She sighed. Fine. The SUV door shut behind her with a soft thud. Inside, everything smelled like leather and quiet power. Adrian sat opposite her, Liam cradled against him as one of the guards checked his vitals. Imani clasped her shaking hands. Is he always this unstable? His glucose levels are usually controlled, Adrian cut in. His jaw ticked with restrained anger, not at her, at himself. Something went wrong tonight. Imani took a breath, studying him. Up close, he was even more intimidating. Sharp cheekbones, strong brow, the kind of man whose silence spoke louder than most people's screaming. He kept staring at her like she was a puzzle he needed to solve. You handled the emergency with speed and precision, he said finally. You knew exactly what to do. I'm a nursing student, she replied softly. It wasn't heroic. It was just knowledge. Knowledge most people don't have? The SUV stopped in front of iron gates, taller than any building in her neighborhood. They slid open automatically, revealing a mansion lit like a palace carved into the night. Imani stared. Where are we? The Marlowe estate. Liam was rushed inside with medical staff already waiting. Adrian turned to her again. Be here at 9 tomorrow morning. She blinked. For what? To discuss compensation. For what? I didn't. For saving my son. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Do not be late. He turned and walked away before she could respond. Imani stood on the grand entrance steps like someone had dropped her into an entirely different universe. She hugged herself against the cold and whispered, What the hell just happened? Her phone buzzed with a text from her landlord. Rent overdue. Final notice. She closed her eyes. A billionaire offering compensation might be the only miracle she'd had in months, but miracles always asked for something in return. The next morning, Imani returned to the estate wearing her only decent blouse, praying she didn't smell like diner grease. A maid led her through wide hallways until they reached a glass-walled office where Adrian Marlowe stood reviewing documents. He didn't look up. You're late. What? No, I'm 10 minutes early. You're late to me. Her mouth fell open. Okay, fine, I'm late. He signed the last page and finally met her eyes. Liam's stability depends on constant monitoring. His last nurse resigned 2 weeks ago. I need you to take her place. Imani blinked rapidly. You want to hire me? Yes. To live here? Yes. But I'm a student and part-time waitress, and not mansion material. I don't need material. I need competence. The air felt heavy between them. The salary, he said evenly, is $5,000 a week. Full room and board. Flexible school accommodations. Imani's knees nearly buckled. Sir, that's more money than... You'll accept the offer. I didn't say that. You will. She glared at him, heat rising in her chest. You don't get to tell me what I'll do. Adrian stepped closer, not aggressively, but with the confidence of someone used to shaping reality around him. Imani Porter, he said quietly, my son trusts you. That is rare. He needs you. And you need stability. So yes, you will accept. Imani's breath hitched. She hated that he was right. She hated even more that she wanted the job. Her phone buzzed again. Another overdue notice from the university. She sighed deeply. Fine. I'll take it. A rare flicker of relief crossed Adrian's face before he smoothed it away. Good. You move in tonight. Imani stared at him, stunned. Tonight? Yes. But he raised a hand. The discussion was over. Hours later, she stood in the vast guest room assigned to her, staring out at the manicured gardens and thinking her life wasn't just changing, it was detonating, reshaping into something she didn't understand yet. A soft knock pulled her from her thoughts. Liam stood in the doorway, pale but steadier. You're staying? He whispered. Imani nodded. Looks like it. Liam didn't smile, but he didn't frown either. Something quiet and fragile flickered in his eyes. Good. Imani watched him walk away, unaware that this was only the first step into a world filled with danger, power, and secrets far darker than the alley where she had found him. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Your support keeps more stories coming. Imani barely slept her first night at the Marlowe estate. Between the two soft pillows, the eerie silence of wealth, and the echo of Adrian's voice in her head, she tossed until dawn stained the horizon gold. By the time she made it to the private breakfast room, she had convinced herself she did not belong here. Not in this house, not in this world, not in this life that seemed borrowed, fragile, unreal. But then she saw Liam sitting at the table, pushing scrambled eggs around his plate with the tip of his fork, and all her doubts quieted. He looked tired, vulnerable, trying to pretend he wasn't scared. Imani cleared her throat. Mind if I sit? He blinked at her, surprised, then shrugged. It's your job. She raised an eyebrow. Wow. Starting early with the attitude? A ghost of a smile tugged his lips. Sorry, just not used to people sitting with me. Imani sat down. Well, get used to it. I'm not going anywhere. He studied her for a moment, as if trying to decode her sincerity. Most people who work here don't talk to me unless Dad tells them to. I'm not most people. That's kind of obvious. She opened her mouth to respond when the door swung open. Adrian entered, dressed in a navy suit, crisp and intimidating. His eyes flickered to Imani, then to Liam, analyzing everything in a single glance. Morning, Adrian said, though it sounded more like an assessment than a greeting. Imani stiffened. Morning. Liam poked at his eggs again. Adrian frowned. Eat. I'm not hungry. You need your numbers stable. Liam muttered something under his breath. Imani nudged him gently. Come on. Few bites. Let's avoid another alleyway drama. Liam huffed, but took a bite. Adrian's gaze shifted back to Imani, faint approval in his expression. It unsettled her, how someone so closed off could still make her feel like she was being evaluated. When breakfast ended, Adrian signaled her to follow him. She hesitated but rose. He led her down a hallway lined with framed photographs, none of which featured a smiling family or even a smiling Adrian. They all looked rigid, formal, like the mood was always something between professional and don't breathe too loudly. Inside his office, he shut the door behind them. Sit, he said. She crossed her arms. You know, you could say please. He looked at her like she'd spoken in another language. Then slowly, almost grudgingly, he said, Please sit. Her eyebrows shot up. Wow. Progress. She sat. He stayed standing. I need to make something clear. Liam's condition isn't merely a medical matter, it is a vulnerability. If certain people knew the extent of it, they would use it against me. Use diabetes against you? Against him, Adrian corrected sharply. Against my son. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. I need you to be discreet, he continued. No one outside this house is to know the details of his condition. No one. Imani swallowed hard. I understand. I don't think you do. His voice became quieter, colder. My family has enemies, real enemies, people who would exploit anything to gain leverage. She frowned. Like who? He hesitated. The Castellano family. Business rivals. Unstable. Dangerous. Imani exhaled. So you're saying I'm stepping into something bigger than a nursing job? Yes. And you expect me to risk my life? I expect you to keep Liam alive. His tone softened. Just barely. The rest is my responsibility. Imani stared at him. You really think I'm going to get scared and quit? You should. She stood abruptly. I'm not scared of you. Or your rivals. Or your big house. Or your impossible demands. He stepped closer. So close she could see the tension in his jaw. Then you're either very brave or very foolish. Imani lifted her chin. Maybe I'm both. A beat of silence, then he nodded once. Training starts today. Ethan will brief you. He opened the door, signaling the conversation was over. The rest of the morning was a blur of rotations, instructions, and overwhelming new protocols. Ethan Vale, the head of security, walked her through the estate's systems. You're responsible for knowing where Liam is at all times, Ethan said, tapping a digital tracker worn like a watch on Liam's wrist. This syncs to your phone. Imani blinked. And if he goes somewhere unexpected? We intercept. Intercept? He's a kid, not a fugitive. Ethan gave her a small, almost apologetic smile. You'll understand soon. Being a Marlowe is complicated. She didn't understand. Not yet. That afternoon, she accompanied Liam to his private tutoring session. He groaned as they walked. You're gonna hover the entire day? He asked. Yep. Like, literally right next to me? Yep. Even in the bathroom? Imani raised an eyebrow. No, but I'll be outside the door. Liam stared at her like she'd just threatened his existence. That's worse. Well, blame your dad. My job is to keep you breathing. He rolled his eyes. I've been managing my diabetes since I was 8. And you've been slipping on your checks for… how long? He looked away. Exactly, she said. The tutoring session dragged on. Liam fidgeted through math problems and tried repeatedly to convince her he was fine, totally fine, absolutely fine, and, please stop staring at me like I'm a defective robot. She had to stifle a laugh. By evening, she was exhausted. The mansion echoed with silence, except for one moment, when a loud argument erupted from Adrian's office. Imani paused outside the closed door. You are reckless, someone snapped inside, a woman's voice, sharp with anger. Bringing that girl into this house without vetting, without knowing anything about her? She saved Liam, Adrian shot back. That doesn't mean she belongs here. Imani's heart pounded. She stepped back quickly, pretending she hadn't heard anything. She hurried down the hall, but her stomach twisted. Who was that woman? Why didn't she want Imani here? And why did Adrian defend her? Later that night, as Imani checked Liam's glucose levels, he looked up at her with a hesitant expression. You shouldn't listen to the yelling, he whispered. It happens a lot. She tried to smile. I'm not bothered. You will be. His expression grew dark, older than his age. My dad. People see him as strong, but strength makes enemies, and enemies make everything dangerous. Imani sat on the edge of his bed. Liam, were you running from someone last night, before I found you? He swallowed. Hard. I heard them. Voices. Footsteps. I got scared. Why didn't you call home? Because they would have blamed me for being careless. Imani reached out, gently squeezing his hand. I don't blame you. No one ever says that. Her chest tightened. After he slept, Imani stepped into the hallway, only to find Adrian leaning against the opposite wall, watching her like he'd been waiting. "How long have you been standing there?" she asked. "Long enough," he said quietly. "He opened up to you." "He trusts me," she said softly. Adrian nodded. "Good." But he didn't move, didn't walk away, didn't break the tension. "Is something wrong?" she asked. He exhaled slowly. "The world I've built for my son is supposed to protect him, but it also isolates him. You're the first person he's allowed near in years." Imani frowned. "That's a lot of pressure to put on one person." "That's why I chose wisely. I didn't say I agreed with the pressure part." A faint smile tugged his lips. "You're honest. That's useful." "Useful? Wow, glad I'm not a liability." His smile vanished. "Never." The words settled between them like a promise. Before she could say anything else, Ethan rushed into the hall. "Adrian, there's movement near the south gate. Unmarked vehicle. Someone's watching the estate." Imani stiffened. Adrian's eyes darkened, shifting into something colder than steel. "Castellanos?" "Likely." Adrian turned to Imani. "Get inside your room. Stay there." Imani shook her head. "I'm not hiding. Not when Liam." He stepped closer, voice low and firm. "Go. Now." She wanted to argue. She wanted to stand her ground. But the look in his eyes wasn't dominance. It was fear. Not for himself. For her. She retreated into her room, locking the door as footsteps thundered outside and guards moved into formation. Outside her window, she saw silhouettes in the dark. Unmarked cars. Watchers. Imani's heart raced. She had stepped into a war she didn't understand, and she wasn't sure she could walk back out. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Your support keeps more stories coming. Imani barely slept. Every sound outside her door made her flinch. Boots moving in the hallway, murmured radio chatter, doors opening and closing in hurried, clipped rhythms. She stayed curled on the edge of her bed listening, imagining shadows pressing against the windows and strangers watching from the trees. Near dawn, the estate finally quieted. The tension settled into a heavy, eerie silence. Imani forced herself to step into the hallway. The house felt different now, like something had cracked open in the night. She found Ethan downstairs, barking orders to two guards while adjusting a holster at his side. When he saw her, he paused. "You should be resting," he said. "You say that like anyone could sleep after last night." She folded her arms. "What's going on?" Ethan hesitated. "They were scouting, testing our response time." "Who? The Castellanos?" His jaw tightened. "Most likely." "What do they want?" He didn't answer. That alone frightened her. Before she could push, another voice filled the hall. Deep, controlled, heavy with exhaustion. "Imani." She turned. Adrian Marlowe stood at the bottom of the staircase, his shirt rumpled, his tie missing, his hair slightly out of place. For the first time, he didn't look perfect. He looked human. Tired. Troubled. "Come with me," he said quietly. She followed him to the back terrace overlooking the lawn. Morning light washed over the estate, revealing guards stationed at every corner. More than yesterday. Twice as many. "This is my fault," Adrian murmured, resting his hands on the railing. Imani frowned. "Your fault? For what?" "For giving them a reason to come closer." His jaw flexed. "They want leverage. They want weakness." "And Liam is weakness?" she asked sharply. Adrian's eyes snapped to hers. "No, he is my son, which makes him a target." Imani's chest tightened. "You said you'd protect him." "I will," he said, voice turning cold. "But they won't stop unless they see we are not afraid." "Are we not?" she whispered. He didn't respond. Instead, he stepped closer. "I need you to stay focused today. Liam has schoolwork. a virtual appointment with his endocrinologist, and training with Ethan afterward. Don't leave his side. Imani scoffed. You really think I'm going anywhere? He studied her with that calculating intensity he always carried. Fear changes people. Maybe, she said, but it won't change me. Something flickered in his expression, admiration maybe, pride, something he didn't want her to see, something he tried to hide by looking away. I'll check on Liam, she said. Imani. She paused. He exhaled slowly. Thank you. For staying. The words unsettled her more than last night's danger. When she reached Liam's room, she found him awake, curled under his blankets, staring out the window like he'd been watching the sunrise for hours. He looked small, quiet, not at all like the sarcastic kid from yesterday. She knocked lightly. Hey. He turned, eyes tired. Is it safe? Her heart sank. Yes. Right now it is. That's not an answer. She sat at the foot of the bed. Nothing bad is going to happen to you. You hear me? I'm not letting anything happen. He studied her face, searching for cracks. You're scared. Of course I am, she admitted. But being scared doesn't mean I'm giving up. He nodded slowly. Can I stay near you today? As close as you want. He crawled out of bed and grabbed her sleeve quietly, like he was still waiting for the world to fall apart. They spent the morning together, moving through lessons, glucose checks, and quiet conversations. Liam seemed calmer with her beside him, but every time a guard passed the door, he flinched. During his virtual appointment, Liam answered questions mechanically while Imani updated the doctor about the previous crisis. Adrian passed through the room once, silent, observing. His presence made the air feel heavier, but Liam sat straighter when he entered, as if trying to appear stronger. Afterward, Liam's energy dipped. He sank onto the couch in the upstairs lounge. You okay? She asked. He nodded but didn't move. Liam. His eyes glistened. I don't like nights like last night. Imani gently placed her hand on his shoulder. I know. What if next time they come inside? What if they try to take me? What if... Hey. She knelt in front of him. Listen to me. You are not alone. Not anymore. Not ever. Dad always says that, he whispered. But he's distant. He's always in meetings, or shouting, or doing things I'm not supposed to know about. Sometimes I feel like I'm only part of his world when I'm in danger. The words sliced through Imani. Your dad cares about you, she said gently. Yeah, Liam muttered, from far away. Imani thought of Adrian last night. The fear in his eyes, the tension in his posture. He wasn't far away. He was terrified, but she didn't know how to explain that to Liam without exposing things she shouldn't. She stayed with him until Ethan arrived for his training session, a security-made routine involving emergency drills, safe room procedures, and escape routes. I don't want to, Liam mumbled. Just an hour, Ethan said softly. Liam shot Imani a pleading look. She squeezed his hand. I'll stay. Ethan hesitated, then nodded. Fine. She stays. The drills were intense. The instructions were strict. Every few minutes, alarms buzzed, lights flashed, doors locked automatically. Liam hated all of it. He tensed at every noise, sweating, trembling, and trying to hide it. At one point, when Ethan instructed Liam to crawl into the safe room, Liam froze completely. No, he whispered. Liam, Ethan said gently, we need to practice. No. His breathing quickened. I don't want to go in there. I'm not doing this. Ethan sighed. We talked about this. You have to... Stop! Liam snapped, stepping back until he hit the wall. Imani moved quickly, kneeling beside him. Look at me. He swallowed, inhaling shakily. You don't have to be brave right now, she said softly. Just breathe. I'm right here. I'm not leaving you. He gripped her hand so tightly her fingers went numb, but she didn't let go. After a long moment, he nodded. Okay, he said quietly, but only if you come with me. She nodded. Every step. They entered the safe room together. Liam sat between her and the wall, leaning into her side until his breathing steadied. When the training ended, Ethan looked at her with something like gratitude. He did better today, he murmured. No, Imani said softly. He trusted me, that's all. Ethan nodded once. Sometimes that's the difference. As evening settled, Imani escorted Liam downstairs for dinner. The house felt calmer, but the tension lingered like a storm waiting to return. They entered the dining room and found Adrian sitting at the head of the table, hands clasped, expression unreadable. He stood when he saw Liam. How was training? He asked. Liam shrugged. Fine. Imani opened her mouth, then stopped. Liam glanced at her, pleading silently. He didn't want his father to know he struggled. Adrian studied his son for a long second, but said nothing. Dinner was quiet at first. Too quiet. Liam barely touched his food. Adrian pretended not to notice, but his jaw clenched every time Liam lowered his fork without eating. Then Adrian spoke without looking up. We're traveling. Imani blinked. What? Liam stiffened. Where? To the northern property, Adrian said. It's more secure. Remote. No, Liam whispered. It's not a choice. Imani stepped forward. Adrian. He lifted a hand. This is not up for debate. It's safer. For who? She demanded. For him or for you? His eyes snapped upward, sharp. For all of us. Liam shoved his chair back, standing abruptly. I'm not leaving. I'm not being locked away somewhere else. Liam. No. His voice cracked. You're not listening. You never listen. He bolted from the dining room. Imani rushed after him. She found him in the hallway, breathing too fast, hands trembling, tears threatening to fall. She knelt beside him again. I can't go, he whispered. If we go, it means they win. No, she said softly. It means he's scared of losing you. Liam looked up at her with broken eyes. Then why doesn't he ever say that? Imani didn't know the answer. When she returned to the dining room, Adrian remained seated, staring at the untouched glass of water beside him. You can't force him, she said quietly. I can, and I will. He's terrified. I'm trying to keep him alive. Imani moved closer, then talked to him. Not as Adrian Marlowe, the Empire, you. Her voice softened. Talk to him as his father. Adrian inhaled slowly, like the word father carried weight he wasn't sure he deserved. I'll try, he murmured. But before either of them could move, a guard sprinted into the room, panic etched across his face. Sir, motion sensors, north perimeter, 3 figures approaching on foot. Adrian shot to his feet. Imani's blood ran cold. They were back. And this time, they weren't just watching. They were coming. If you're still here, hit that like button and subscribe for more thrilling stories. Your support makes all the difference. The guard's voice barely faded before Adrian was already moving, swift and purposeful, his face carved into a mask of cold authority. Imani felt her pulse slam against her ribs as Ethan rushed in from the hallway, hand already on his weapon. North perimeter breached, the guard repeated, breathless. 3 individuals confirmed. They're advancing fast. Ethan cursed under his breath. We need to lock down the house. Do it, Adrian snapped, and get eyes on Liam. Now. Imani didn't wait for permission. She bolted from the dining room, sprinting down the hall, her heart pounding so violently it made her ears ring. The lights overhead flickered as the security system engaged, shutters slamming down over the first-floor windows with metallic finality. Liam! She shouted as she reached the stairs. Liam! Where are you? No answer. Her stomach twisted. The hallway felt longer than usual, too long. Every second stretched tight and sharp as she dashed toward his room. She flung the door open. Empty. Her breath caught. No, no, no. She spun around, racing back into the hall. Liam! A soft cry echoed from the opposite end of the corridor. Imani froze, turned, and ran toward the sound. She found Liam curled behind a console table, knees pulled to his chest, tears streaking down his face. His breaths were shallow, fast, too fast. The beginnings of a panic attack. She dropped to her knees and reached for him gently. I've got you. I'm here. He grabbed her hand instantly. They're coming, aren't they? It's okay, she whispered, pulling him close. You're safe with me. I don't want to go with them, he gasped. I can't. You're not going anywhere, she said firmly, her voice strong even as fear tightened around her ribs. I promise. I'm not letting anyone touch you. He clung to her shirt like he believed she was the only thing keeping him anchored to the world. Ethan appeared at the end of the hall. Imani, the safe room. Now. Liam stiffened. No, please. Not the room. Imani stood lifting him with surprising strength. You stay with me, she said. We'll go together. I'll be right beside you. He nodded shakily but didn't let go of her. The safe room was 2 levels down, behind a coated door disguised as a section of wall. The hallway leading to it hummed with electricity as lockdown mechanisms engaged. As they descended the stairs, the security alarm suddenly blared, shrill, piercing, a warning that shot adrenaline through Imani's veins. Ethan swore. They breached the outer fence. We don't have much time. Can't you stop them? Imani asked, tightening her grip on Liam. Working on it, he muttered, but no promises. They reached the safe room corridor, but just as Ethan punched in the code, a violent boom shook the house. Dust rained from the ceiling, lights flickered again. Liam shrieked and buried his face against Imani. Ethan looked up, eyes wide. That was the north entrance. Meaning what? Imani choked out. They're inside. The words hit harder than the explosion. Ethan shoved them into the safe room. Stay here. Lock it behind me. No! Liam screamed, grabbing his arm. Don't go. They'll hurt you. I'll be fine, Ethan said, forcing a calm he didn't feel. He looked at Imani. Get him stable. Don't open this door unless Adrian or I give the code. Imani nodded, though fear throbbed through her. Ethan slipped out and sealed the door. Liam clung to her as the heavy steel panel locked into place, muffling the chaos outside. The room was small but fortified, lined with supplies and reinforced panels. A faint hum filled the air, ventilation and emergency power systems engaging. Imani pulled Liam down onto a padded bench. It's okay, she whispered. Just breathe with me. He shook his head violently. They're going to take me. I know it. I know they are. No, she said firmly. No one is taking you. I won't let that happen. He looked up at her with broken, terrified eyes. You promise? She cupped his face with trembling hands. I promise. A deep boom shook the walls again. Dust trickled from the ceiling. Liam flinched so hard she felt it through her arms. His breathing quickened again. His hand shook violently against his chest. You're okay, she murmured, pulling him onto her lap like she used to do with her little cousins. You're safe right here. Where's my dad? Liam whispered, shaking. Why isn't he here? Imani swallowed hard. He's protecting us. Or getting himself killed, Liam sobbed. She had no answer for that. Minutes crawled by. Slow, heavy, suffocating minutes. Outside, muffled shouts erupted. Footsteps thundered above them. A single gunshot cracked through the floorboards. Liam screamed and covered his ears. Imani pulled him tighter, shielding him with her arms. Her heart hammered painfully against her ribs. She was terrified, So terrified she felt sick, but she didn't let it show. Liam needed her steady. Suddenly, the intercom crackled. Ethan's voice, hoarse, urgent. Imani, can you hear me? Her breath caught. Yes, we're here. What's happening? 2 intruders down, Ethan rasped. Third one escaped into the east wing. Adrian? She whispered. A long pause. Imani felt her blood freeze. Ethan? She urged. Where is he? He's dealing with it, Ethan said after a beat. But you need to stay exactly where you are. Liam looked up at her, voice trembling. Is my dad hurt? No, Ethan said quickly. But, Imani, listen to me carefully. If the safe room door loses power, you need to manually engage the second lock. The switch is behind the panel to your left. Why would it lose power? She asked, panic climbing her throat. Because they're attacking the generator. Liam let out a whimper. You can't let them in, Ethan continued. Under any circumstances. Just stop, Imani said sharply. Stop scaring him. I'm not trying to. I'm trying to keep you both alive. The intercom cut out. Silence pressed against them again. Thick, heavy, suffocating. For several long minutes, Imani listened to Liam's breathing, counted each inhale, each exhale, grounding him while grounding herself. She whispered stories to him, dumb, soft things about her mom, about growing up in crowded apartments filled with laughter, about learning to braid hair on her little sister's dolls. Anything to keep him calm. He slowly relaxed against her, trembling less with each word. Then, a soft click echoed from the safe room door. Imani froze. Liam stiffened. What was that? She stared at the door, heart pounding. The overhead light flickered once, twice. The power stuttered. No. No, no, no. The door locks were failing. Imani sprang to her feet, pulling Liam up with her. Stay behind me. The lights flickered again. The hum of the ventilation system hiccuped. Liam clutched her waist. Imani. It's okay, she lied. We're okay. Another click, louder this time. She reached for the manual override panel Ethan mentioned. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost couldn't grip the handle. A voice drifted through the door, soft, taunting, unfamiliar. Well, well, wasn't expecting to find company in here. Liam's knees almost buckled. They're here. Imani, they're here. She scraped the panel open with numb fingers, revealing the manual lever. The metal was cold against her skin. The intruder slammed a fist against the door. Bang! Liam yelped and clung to her so hard he nearly knocked her off balance. Imani grabbed the lever. Another slam. Bang! Her breath hitched, but she forced herself to pull down as hard as she could. The lever resisted, stiff and rusted from lack of use, but she threw her weight into it. It snapped into place with a sharp metallic crack. The secondary lock engaged. A furious growl erupted from the other side of the door. The intruder slammed against it again, harder, then again, and again. Each impact rattled the room. Liam sobbed into her, shaking uncontrollably. He's going to get in, Imani, he's going to get in. No, she said, voice fierce despite the terror choking her. He won't get through, not while I'm here. The pounding continued, violent, relentless, terrifying. The metal door bent inward with every hit. Come on! The intruder snarled. I know you're in there. Imani held Liam's head against her chest, shielding his ears. Her eyes burned. Adrenaline roared through her veins, leaving her shaking, breathless, desperate. Stop listening, she whispered into his hair. Close your eyes. I've got you. I've got you. In the distance, dim but growing, she could hear footsteps, shouting, a new voice yelling commands. Then, a thunderous crash, a cry of pain, a heavy thud, silence. Long, stretching silence. Liam clung to her so tightly she felt her ribs ache. Is he gone? he whispered. Imani didn't answer. Not yet. Not until she heard confirmation. Seconds ticked by. Then the intercom crackled again. This time, Adrian's voice filled the room. Raw, breathless, controlled only by force of will. It's safe, he said. Imani, open the door. Imani's knees buckled in relief. For the first time in her life, she wanted to cry. If you're still watching, hit like and subscribe. Your support helps us keep creating stories like this. Imani forced herself to unlock the secondary latch with trembling hands. Liam stayed glued to her side, his fingers digging into her shirt, his breath coming in shaky, little gasps. The moment the panel lifted, the heavy door released with a mechanical hiss, swinging outward slowly. Adrian stood on the other side. His shirt was blood-spattered, his sleeve torn, his hair a mess, the immaculate billionaire image shattered. A bruise darkened one cheekbone, and a thin line of blood ran down the side of his face. But his eyes were burning, alive with a lethal fury she had never seen before. Behind him, 2 guards dragged a limp man down the hallway. The intruder's face was swollen, bloodied, barely recognizable. Adrian had clearly been the one who dealt with him. But none of that mattered to Liam. "Dad!" he cried, and launched himself into Adrian's arms. Adrian caught him instantly, dropping to his knees as if the ground had pulled him down. His arms wrapped around Liam so tightly the boy squeaked in surprise, but he didn't complain. He just clung to his father, sobbing into his shoulder. Adrian's voice shook. "I'm here. I'm here. You're safe." Imani stepped back, giving them space despite the ache in her chest. She wiped her palms on her pants, trying to steady her own shaking. Her breath hitched when Adrian lifted his head to meet her eyes. For a second, something raw passed between them. Relief, guilt, gratitude, something deeper. Something he wasn't ready to say out loud. He rose slowly, still holding Liam. The boy's arms were wrapped around his neck like a lifeline. "Come on," Adrian murmured softly. "We're getting out of the hallway." Ethan appeared beside them, face tight, jaw clenched, one hand pressed against his ribs like he'd taken a hit. "Everything secure?" Adrian asked. "For now," Ethan replied. "But the breach was coordinated. They were testing our blind spots." Adrian's grip tightened around Liam. "They got too close." "Too close," Ethan echoed. "And there's something else?" Imani's stomach dropped. "What?" Ethan looked between them, hesitating. "We found a tracker." "Where?" Adrian growled. "Under your son's window." Liam's breath caught. "What?" I didn't put." "No one thinks you did," Imani said quickly, brushing his hair back. "It's okay. You didn't do anything wrong." Adrian's expression darkened into something cold and deadly. "They marked him." Ethan nodded grimly. "Which means they're planning something bigger." Imani swallowed hard. "So what now?" Adrian lifted Liam's chin gently, forcing him to look into his eyes. "Pack a small bag," he said softly. "We're leaving. Tonight." "No!" Liam cried. "Dad, please." "This isn't open for argument." Imani stepped forward. "Adrian, you think I want to uproot him?" Adrian snapped, the control in his voice cracking. "You think I want him living in fear? I'm doing what I must to keep him breathing." Imani hesitated. "He trusts this space. He barely holds himself together outside of it." Adrian inhaled shakily, his nostrils flaring. "Trust means nothing if they walk through my front door." Liam buried his face against his father's neck, sobbing quietly. Imani didn't push again. She understood now. This wasn't just wealth or power or danger. This was a war. And Liam was the prize. Within an hour, the house was buzzing with movement. Guards shouting orders, security systems rebooting, vehicles being prepared. Adrian moved like a commander at war, issuing directions, reading updates, switching phones, coordinating with teams she didn't even know existed. But every few minutes, he came back to check on Liam. Every single time. Imani helped the boy pack a few clothes, his favorite hoodie, his insulin supplies. His hands shook so badly she ended up folding half the things for him. "Will we ever come back?" he asked in a small voice. Imani paused. "I don't know." He rubbed at his eyes. "I miss Mom's room." Imani froze. "Your mom?" He nodded, chewing his lip. "She used to read to me in there, even when she got sick." Imani's heart softened. "I'm sorry, Liam." He didn't answer. He just picked up a picture frame from his nightstand, him as a toddler, on his mother's lap, both laughing at something just out of frame. "Dad doesn't talk about her," he whispered. She rested a hand on his shoulder. "People grieve differently. He just shuts down." Imani knelt beside him. "Maybe losing you is something he couldn't survive." Liam looked at her with wide, glassy eyes. "Is that why he's so scared?" "Yes," she whispered. Downstairs, Adrian's voice boomed through the house, commanding, sharp, uncompromising. But up here, in his son's room, she finally understood that beneath that controlled exterior was a man holding himself together by sheer will. When they headed downstairs, the house felt like a fortress preparing for an evacuation, guards everywhere, lights dimmed, shadows shifting with every movement. Ethan approached them at the bottom of the stairs. "Car is ready." Adrian nodded and rested a hand on Liam's back. "Stay behind me." Imani followed them through the foyer, her eyes scanning the windows, the dark corners, the shadows stretching across the marble floor. Fear crawled up her spine like cold fingers. Outside, the night air hit her like a slap. A line of black SUVs idled in the driveway, engines rumbling. The forest bordering the estate loomed like a wall of darkness. Liam hesitated at the front door. "I don't want to go." Adrian crouched in front of him, both hands on his shoulders. For once, his voice softened. Not the controlled softness he used in public, but something real, raw, unguarded. "I know," he said quietly, "but this is the only way I can keep you safe." Liam swallowed hard. "If I go, will they stop coming?" Adrian closed his eyes just for a moment before answering. "I don't know." The honesty shook Imani. Liam's bottom lip quivered. "I'm scared." Adrian leaned forward and pressed his forehead to his son's. "So am I." The confession broke something inside Imani. Liam wrapped his arms around his father again, clinging like he was terrified the world would tear them apart. Adrian held him tightly, almost desperately. But then, two headlights flashed at the far end of the long driveway. Adrian's eyes snapped open. "Move, now!" Guards shouted. Weapons were drawn. Imani grabbed Liam's arm, pulling him toward the SUV. Ethan slammed the door open. "Get in!" Liam scrambled inside. Imani climbed in after him. A gunshot cracked through the air. She froze. "Go!" Ethan shouted. "Drive!" The SUV lurched forward. Imani pulled Liam down between the seats, shielding him with her body as more shots rang out. Glass shattered. Tires squealed. "Dad!" Liam cried, voice breaking. Imani lifted her head just enough to see Adrian sprinting toward a second SUV, firing back at shadowy figures moving near the tree line. More gunfire, more shouting. The night erupted into chaos. The driver swerved sharply, avoiding something in the road. Liam clutched Imani's arm, trembling violently. She wrapped both arms around him, holding him so tightly she could feel his heartbeat slamming against her chest. "It's okay," she whispered, her voice shaking. "You're okay. I've got you." But as the SUV sped down the long road away from the estate, away from the flashing lights, away from the danger, they all knew the truth. Nothing was okay. Nothing was safe. And this was only the beginning. If you're still here, hit that like button and subscribe for more intense and emotional stories. Your support keeps this series going and means the world. The SUV sped down the steep private road so fast the trees blurred into dark streaks. Imani held onto Liam with one arm and the seat with the other, bracing herself as the car swerved again. The air inside the vehicle felt thick, charged, trembling with tension. "Where's Dad?" Liam choked out. "He's right behind us," Imani said, praying it was true. She kept her eyes on the rear window, watching headlights bob and lurch through the darkness. Two SUVs followed, one of them Adrian's. But beyond those, shadows moved. Fast. Too fast. The driver cursed. "We've got company." Ethan spun around from the front seat, checking the boy first, then Imani. "Stay low. Don't look out the windows unless you have to." Imani's pulse hammered. The roar of engines closed in behind them. Gunfire erupted again. The rear window cracked but didn't shatter. Bulletproof glass. Liam screamed and dove into her side. She wrapped both arms around him, shielding his head, her body shaking so badly she could barely breathe. "Faster!" Ethan barked. The driver slammed his foot down. The SUV lunged forward, tearing through the night, tires screeching against the asphalt as the estate disappeared behind them. The road dipped and curved sharply. The trees vanished, replaced by open highway. Adrian's SUV caught up, pulling beside them for a moment. Imani saw him through the tinted window. Jaw set, eyes blazing, both hands gripping the wheel as he leaned forward like he could force the vehicle to move faster with sheer will. He locked eyes with her for a split second. Just a second. But in that second she saw everything: terror, fury, determination, and something deep and unspoken that clenched around her heart like a fist. Then headlights flared behind him. A third vehicle appeared. Not one of theirs. "Damn it," Ethan muttered. "They're multiplying." "Who are they?" Imani asked, voice trembling. He didn't answer. The silence was answer enough. The rogue SUV swung sideways, ramming into Adrian's vehicle with brutal force. "No!" Liam cried out, jolting forward. Adrian's SUV skidded across the highway, tires screaming. Sparks burst under the chassis. For a horrifying moment, the vehicle tilted onto two wheels. "Dad!" Liam shrieked. Imani grabbed him before he could unbuckle, her heart lurching into her throat as the world outside spun. But Adrian didn't flip. Somehow, he corrected the skid, straightened out, and surged forward again. "Thank God," Imani whispered. Liam started crying, fast, panicked breaths tearing out of him. She pressed his head to her chest, holding him tight. "It's okay. He's okay. He's right there. He's okay." She didn't know if she said it for Liam or for herself. The rogue SUV tried again. Adrian swerved, avoiding the hit by inches. Glass sprayed from the side mirror as it snapped off. "Driver!" Ethan yelled. "Cut left. We're drawing too much heat." "We lose him if I cut left," the driver snapped back. "We lose the boy if you don't," Ethan shouted. Imani's stomach dropped. She knew what that meant. She knew the cold logic behind the words. She also knew the only thing Adrian cared about was Liam, and she had no idea if he would survive the night trying to protect him. The driver jerked the wheel left, taking an exit ramp at a dangerous speed. The SUV fishtailed, then straightened. The other vehicles barreled past on the main highway, shooting forward too fast to slow down and follow immediately. "You just bought us 30 seconds, Ethan muttered. Lights blurred around them as they entered the edge of an industrial district. Warehouses, empty lots, construction sites. The SUV hurtled through half-finished roads and gravel patches. Then, another impact. Behind them, they were being followed again. Imani looked back and felt her blood freeze. But it wasn't an enemy. It was Adrian. He had somehow broken off, circled around, and fallen in behind them. "Dad!" Liam sobbed with relief. Imani let out a shaky breath she didn't realize she'd been holding, but the relief was short-lived. Two more unfamiliar headlights appeared from a side road, cutting across the dirt lot and angling toward them. "They're boxing us in," Ethan hissed. "Not happening," the driver growled. He jerked the wheel. The SUV flew across a stretch of uneven ground, bouncing hard enough that Liam cried out again. Imani held him close, feeling bruises form instantly as the vehicle slammed back onto paved road. They burst onto a narrow route that hugged the edge of a massive construction pit. Cranes towered above, half-dismantled scaffolding silhouetted against the night sky. It felt like driving into a trap. A terrible, perfect trap. "Keep straight," Ethan ordered. "This leads out to a service road." But before they could reach it, the rogue SUV appeared ahead of them, blocking the narrow exit. Ethan swore violently. "Brace!" The driver wrenched the wheel. They skidded sideways, but the path was too tight. They were pinned on one side by the pit and on the other by the enemy vehicle creeping closer like a predator stalking prey. Adrian's SUV roared up behind them, tires spinning in the dirt. He angled his vehicle like he might ram the enemy. Imani's heart stuttered. "Don't," she whispered. But he did. Adrian slammed into the rogue SUV with vicious force. Metal screamed. The rogue vehicle shuddered, then spun, sliding dangerously close to the edge of the pit. Imani squeezed her eyes shut. When she opened them, the rogue SUV was teetering, half its weight hovering over the drop. The driver inside scrambled desperately, but the soil gave way. The vehicle plunged into the dark. A hollow crash echoed up as it hit bottom. Liam hid his face in her chest, shaking. Imani stroked his hair. "Don't look. It's over. Just keep your eyes on me." Ethan nodded once to the driver. "Go. Now." They surged forward, racing out of the construction zone. Adrian followed closely, his front bumper dented, hood crumpled but still moving. Minutes passed before the chaos fully faded behind them. Minutes that felt like hours. Finally, the industrial area fell away, swallowed by the city's outskirts. The roads grew wider. Buildings sprouted up around them. Streetlights replaced darkness. Only then did Ethan exhale like he'd been underwater too long. Imani loosened her hold on Liam just enough to look at him. His cheeks were wet, his eyes red, but he was breathing. He was alive. "Are you okay?" she whispered. He nodded shakily. "I think so." She kissed his forehead without thinking, pure instinct. His body softened, tension draining from him. He clung to her arm but didn't cry again. The SUV slowed as they approached a gated underground entrance. 4 guards stepped out, scanning the area before waving them in. A steel barrier lowered behind them. Then another. Then another. Only after the final gate slid shut did Imani let herself breathe. The driver stopped the car. Ethan opened the door first, jumping out and scanning the surroundings. "Clear." Imani stepped out with Liam, her legs trembling so violently she almost fell. Liam clung to her shirt, refusing to let go. Another SUV pulled in moments later. Adrian's. Its front was wrecked, smoke curling from the hood. Adrian climbed out slowly. He looked destroyed. Sweat clung to his skin. His shirt was torn. His left arm hung weirdly at his side like something was wrong with it, but he didn't seem to notice. All he saw was Liam. He walked to them, his breath ragged, steps uneven. Liam didn't wait. He broke free of Imani's hold and ran straight into his father's arms. Adrian caught him with a sharp exhale, hugging him so hard it looked painful. Liam buried his face in his father's neck, sobbing again. "I've got you," Adrian whispered, voice cracking. "I've got you. I'm here." Imani lowered her head, letting them have the moment she knew they needed. But after a few seconds, Adrian looked up at her. His eyes, God, his eyes were raw, intense, alive with something that made her chest ache. "You protected him," he said, voice rough. "You protected my son." Imani shook her head. "I just did what anyone would. No. Adrian stepped closer, still holding Liam. You didn't do what anyone would. You stayed. You fought. You kept him breathing. She swallowed hard. He lowered his voice. I owe you everything. Imani felt her throat tighten. You don't owe me anything. But he stepped closer. Close enough that she felt the warmth of his breath, close enough that his eyes held her still. Imani, he said softly. You don't understand. Her pulse quickened. The air thickened. But Liam tugged on his father's shirt. Can we not run anymore? Adrian closed his eyes, pained. I'm trying, son. I'm trying so damn hard. Imani stepped in, resting a gentle hand on Liam's shoulder. You're safe for now. That's what matters. Adrian's gaze flicked to her hand, then to her face. And something in him shifted, softened, deepened. But before he could speak, Ethan called out from across the garage. We need to get inside. This place is secure, but we can't stay exposed. Adrian nodded, straightening. He adjusted Liam in his arms, holding him like something precious, irreplaceable. He turned to Imani. Stay close, he said, voice firm. I'm not letting anything separate us tonight. She nodded. And together, Adrian, Liam, and Imani walked into the fortified underground safe house, the heavy steel door sealing shut behind them. Behind that door, the danger wasn't gone, but they were alive. And this was only the beginning of everything that would come next. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button, subscribe, and comment "cat" so I know you watched to the end. Your support keeps these stories going.